My summer series continues with the second part of Chapter 20. When you begin to feel like the fire of a particular gift is burning out, how do you keep and stay optimistic and driven in your pursuit of greatness? I'm sharing my dealings with the gift of writing and how I'm striving to maintain it daily. Let's open up the other sides right now on COP. Summertime. No, I'm just playing. What's going on, y'all? This is David J. Coleman here with Coleman on Purpose, my summer series, The Other Sides. So I want to welcome you back for another chapter or part 2 of chapter of The Other Sides. And this one's called Writer. So we did Singer last time. We are going to writer this time, and I'm excited to talk about this part because this kind of leads into the acting part, which will be the next part after this. But writing is definitely another, I guess you could say, gift of mine. So let's dive into part 2 of my summer series, and I want to touch on my writing bug. So here we go. So last time I spoke about venturing off into other avenues besides singing because, all that was going on and I lost that competition and I was just looking for another thing to do. But it goes a little bit further back than when that began with the singing competition. If you didn't have a chance to listen to part 1 of the series, go back and listen to it because it kind of leads into this next one about writing. So, when I was beginning to write, I think it was just a natural type of thing because my mother was already a writer. She's a journalist. So she was interviewing famous celebrities and different things like that back in the day. And I may have caught some of that writing bug, but I was always reading. From when I was little, I was reading. I used to spend hours and hours and hours at the library. I remember sometimes my mother couldn't pick me up right when school was out. And she told me I could go next door to the library. The library was right next door to Del Mar Harvard. There was a school that was right there. And then the University City Public Library was right next door to Del Mar Harvard. So maybe that's why I went to that school. No, just playing. But I went to that school, and after I got out, I would go to the library and I would spend like about 2 or 3 hours, and I could stay in there forever, like looking at books, reading different things. This is back when they weren't even like renting out like videos or anything like that. That didn't come till a little bit later on. So it was strictly just books and then book on tape. I used to like to listen to the book on tape a lot more. So I used to get a whole bunch. They used to have these like plastic bags that had like these little picture books in them. So I remember when I was little, I got those. And even when I got just about 7 or 8 or maybe 9, I would get it was a picture book and it would come with a tape inside, and there would be a book that you would read along with the tape. So as I grew, I got more and more. So there was a specific author that I loved back then. Her name was Beverly Cleary. And if you're not familiar with Beverly Cleary, she is famous for her book series, Ramona. And Ramona had a book series that I loved. And now you can kind of see why like Coleman on Purpose entails just like it reads like a book. It's a podcast like a book. I enjoy stuff like that series. I enjoy watching television series. So it's always something about a series that does something for me. I don't know why that is, but yeah. Anyway, there would be these Ramona books, and there was like a Ramona the Brave. I remember Ramona the Pest. There was a whole series that came out. She even had a Henry Huggins series, which was another spinoff character from the Ramona. I think that came before Ramona came out. Her sister's name was Beezus. It was a whole thing. It was a whole movement. Back then, there was even a show that used to come on PBS called Ramona. And I used to love that show because it transferred all of the things I had been reading in books and put them in the front of me on the TV. And I would always rent that video, like when we started getting videos and stuff, and you could rent a VCR from yes, rent a VCR from the Schnook store. I would get Ramona every time I would go. I would be looking for the Ramona series, and so I could end up watching it. So I remember loving the book Ramona, and after seeing that series, it started to light me up for like, books and what books would mean to me, and like just writing books and how there were actually authors that wrote the book. I learned all of those different things. And even listening to book on tape, when I used to listen to those chapter books on tape, there was something about it that I was like, I want to recite a book maybe one day that I write. And I want to be the speaker. Like I'm talking to you right now on a podcast. I want to read my book and open it up and go through everything that what I've written. So I was very interested in that. So around third grade, yes, I said it again, third grade. So when I learned about, Broadway and singing, like I talked about in the last part, and then now I learned more about writing in the third grade. Same teacher, Miss Bruder, she had us write books at a certain point in the year. We wrote a book. We had to put together the book, make a cover for the book. So it was a whole process. Day by day, we would write different pages of the book, and then it would make a whole book. And they even put our books on display in the library right next door after we wrote the book. So I got this like writing bug, and my first book was called Do the Clouds Really Talk? Yes, I still remember the name of that book. It was an orange book. I have a picture of that, of me holding up my book. And we had like a breakfast where our parents would come. It was like a book breakfast or whatever. I don't know what she called it, but it was like it had the little snacks there with some punch, and they would all come. The parents would come into the classroom, and they would watch us read our books. It was such a genius. This is what made me want to be a teacher. So do you see how all of these things, like when I was little, it was forming me. It was making me into all these things that I was so interested in that would light me up. So I just thought her class was the best class because it was so creative. It has so many different outlets that we could do. I just remember that being one of my best grades in school. I don't know why. I probably had some trouble in there too, but I just don't remember that part because everything else was just so good. So I remember us having that breakfast and the parents coming and sitting down and listening to us read our books. And I just was like, oh my gosh, I love writing. So I got away from that for a little bit because we moved. So that was a huge transition in my life. After I've had this amazing year in third grade, I go to the fourth grade, and I kind of struggle in the fourth grade a little bit because, third grade was just so great, and I was waiting for fourth grade to be wonderful, but I kind of sort of liked fourth grade, but I just got in trouble a lot with that teacher. But right after that, my saving grace at the end of the year, it wasn't saving grace, but I wasn't excited about leaving because fifth grade could have been great in St. Louis too, but we moved to Dayton, Ohio. And so we moved after I had a great third grade. Went to fourth grade, had a little bit of trouble because it was not as creative as what third grade was, but I ended up moving to Ohio and started to surround myself with a lot of different people and friends. I still wasn't writing as much, but I can remember one of the teachers that I had back in elementary. It's so amazing that I can remember some of these things because it kind of tells why I thought certain things were my purpose. There was a teacher that I had, I believe her name was Miss Trotwine, and she used to know I love to read books or write and read books. And so she like ordered a subscription. Like, yes, I was one of the favorites of that class. Ordered like a Disney Adventures like subscription for us so we could read and be creative and stuff like that. It was just amazing. So she kind of transitioned me from the hard move to coming and then coming from St. Louis and moving to Ohio. But then in junior high is where I really began to get into back into my writing niche because I was in a teacher's class, an English class back at my junior high. And junior high was a very crazy time for me. So I did need some of that creativity to kind of take away the anxiety of like meeting new people and growing up more and just different things that were happening. Junior high was just such a weird time for me, but I met some great and beautiful friends during that time. Like a lot of them I don't really talk to. I might talk to just a couple out of all of them, but there was a group of people that knew that I liked to write, and I found out they did also. And so we formed this group, and to this day I still have friends that can tell you it was a company called Half and Half. I was a Half and Half Inc. At that time, it wasn't studios because, at this time I was on writing. So I was like, it was half and half ink. It was a whole publishing. I was the publisher. I was the president. I was everything for this company where we wrote books. And I came up with a series. I was going to bring that so I could show it on the podcast, like to the video, but I still have one of the books of David's. It was called David's Dome at the time. I didn't know that a dorm was called a dorm. I called it a dome. So it was called David's Dome. And I guess nobody else at that time knew that it was dorm. And I just called it David's Dome, and they let me get away with it. I don't know if I made that a thing and told them that it was just going to be dome because it was dome, but it was supposed to be David's Dorm. So later on, I would change it to David's Dorm. But it was actually a book that I wrote, and I was the president, so my friends were writing these chapters. So I would ask them, write a chapter, and if you do well on your chapter, you're gonna get a spinoff series, and then you can write your own. Like, it was just so crazy, like the things that were going through my mind, that I thought that I was doing something at that time. And who knew, like, years later, writing would be one of my favorite things to do. But it was just something that we used to relax, to take the time away from just the monotonous things of junior high and what that all was at that time. But we used to do this, and I used to staple the books together and tape them and everything. So I loved writing at that time. And eventually high school would hit, and it would take me away from, a lot of my friends. We were grown. We're trying to fit into this high school mode after coming through that crazy time of junior high. We're coming into high school. And so a lot of that book writing stopped, because it was like, we're thinking about now, okay, college is coming in about 4 years. We're going to be thinking about college. So we can't be writing these fake books. It got to be something real. So I stopped doing that as much, and I started to get into more of like just doing things on the side with singing, because singing was the thing at the time. But after the singing fell through, like I said last time, I still wanted to write, but I found out another thing that I like was plays. We would read plays in high school, and we would I would love playing the character of the play. In the book that we would read, it'd be a whole story that was written like a play. And I just liked the back and forth with people. And I was like, you know what? I can write. And I like a little bit of that. There's a little bit of acting bug in there. I like the acting. There's no singing in here, but I can do without that because I lost that competition. I was still a little salty about that. So I began to write my own play. And that's when I really, really can't believe sometimes the things that I was doing at 14 and 15, like writing an entire play out with acts and everything like that. I had written a play at 14, and it was a church play, of course, because I was in church. So we had to make sure we include everything. It had to be church. And the first one was about the rapture. It was about being left behind in the rapture. Go figure. I was such a church kid. So I wrote a play about the rapture, about kids, that were acting up in church and everything like that. And some of them got left behind in the rapture, and they end up, getting their heads chopped. Like, it was graphic. Like, I can't even believe they would let me do this, scare the children, because it was a children's play. Because I got a lot of the children from the church together so that we could do this play. So we were kids talking about the rapture, walking into places, getting their heads chopped off if they didn't get saved. And it was I can't believe I did that. But I actually wrote that entire play. We performed it in the children's church at that time. And they even let me perform it in the big service, like the big church. Like, when I think about how many liberties I was actually given as a teenager, I am so happy that the church revival center did what it did for me at the time. Like, it was such, I don't know if they thought I was going to be a Tyler Perry or what they thought it was going to be, but they were going to let me explore this creativity and get that energy out any way that I was going to. And I'm appreciative of that, because things like that make a difference, you guys. If you have anybody out there that has a talent or a gift, don't try to hold it back if you see that they're getting ready to shine. Let them go forth, because everybody, like I said, has their own individual plan, or own individual thing that is set up. If you try to hold somebody back with that shine, you're holding back potential. You're holding back change. You're holding back something that can really change a whole world around you. And so I hate when people actually have those moments. I don't hate anything, but I just don't like the fact that there is this great grave danger of people not wanting people to succeed in their gift. And it's not that they don't want to, it's just that they see that light shining so bright that they want to actually dim it because they don't want it to either outshine them or they don't want it to overtake what they have going on. But if everybody knew that they have their own specific lane, you know how much better this world would be? We just don't realize it because we've become so competitive, and nowadays that we think that everything is a competition and we can't lift anybody else up. It's sad, but this is what I was so thankful about my church, that they allowed me to do that and to put on that play. And then I went on to write another play right after that because of the success of this. Well, I don't know if it was a success, but I was just happy that I did my first play, and it was a lot of people loved it. So they're like, when are you going to write another one? So I was like, let me write a whole another one. And it has to be about Jesus, you know? So it was called The Lamentations versus the Revelations. Now, some of my friends can sit down here and tell you that I actually had a play called The Lamentations versus the Revelations. I took two books of the Bible and I made it like a Supremes versus the Temptations. It was like a battle, a duel, the girls versus the boys. And it was a whole, and then they figured out at the end that they had to come together and they would be even greater if they come together. It was so out there. And at that time I was listening to like Motown and stuff. So I was like, oh yeah, it's gonna be like the Supremes versus the Temptations. And we all had these battles where we were singing. I was choreographing the show. We did that in the church too. And I can't believe they let us do that in the church. But we did that whole thing. I don't even know how that one came out. So that might have been why that next one didn't go forth, because I did write a third play. And that was the one that I did about my favorite group, Out of Eden. And it was going to be like another type of dance singing type thing, but it never came forward. But I still have that play sitting around somewhere. The actual play is still there. And I had been meaning to like maybe let somebody know about it or rewrite it or do something with it, because it was actually dope, but it really dealt with like, from what I knew in articles, it dealt with the life of Out of Eden. And that might not be as much as I think I know, but I wanted to write about my favorite group. So I did a play about it, but that never went on. But nonetheless, I was still writing. And so as time began to pass and things began to be different, you know, with me coming out of, you know, high school and then having my brain injury and everything that happened, when I came back from everything that I had been through, going to college, doing things, of course, I still had a bug. Of course, I still wanted to write a little bit. I was very good. When I started to change over a little bit, I was writing, but what I was doing was writing songs. I remember sitting in church sometimes when I was in college, and they would ask us, we would have a beat, and me and one of my friends at that time, she's my sister-in-law, but at that time she was just my friend. We wrote a rap one time, and it was just writing. So I still had the love for writing, and I still wanted to do music, and I still wanted to do all these things, but the love for it just started to like, it dwindled down a little bit, because I just wanted to be in a place where I was doing what I truly love. So I didn't want it to just be just writing. I didn't want it to be just singing. I was leaning a lot towards the acting a little bit, but I just wasn't sure about it. So as I was sitting down thinking the other day, I was thinking about how much of a creative being I was. And I went home to visit my folks, and I was just sitting down and thinking about all of the different things that I would love to do, you know, even at my age now. I'm in a city now. Charlotte is a real business city. There are some artsy things that go on around the city, and I love to see them, and I love to participate and see what's going on. My job doesn't allow me to do a lot of that now because I fly a lot, but I want to be able to go back out and do more artsy things. I would love to live in a city that was very artsy, because whenever I'm in an artsy community, I feel at home. I went up to visit a while back Asheville, North Carolina, and I did not know how much of such an artsy city that was. But I remember being with my friend at the time, and we went up to this place in Asheville, and we saw this artist that was painting upstairs, had moved away from the town that he was at and was painting murals or something. And just, that's his pastime, going up, and he let us see his whole layout of this place. And it was just so lovely. And I was just kind of watching everything that he was doing, and I was like, man, this is what it's all about. This is what being an artist is about. Yeah, it doesn't pay much, but this is like a lifestyle. People love art this much that they want to be engulfed in this. And this is kind of like the mindset that I've had even while I was at school, even when I was learning math and all the things that I didn't enjoy doing. I always had to be surrounded by something artistic. And that's why sometimes I long for that even more sometimes. So writing was such an outlet at the time that I wanted to get back into writing. So I've sat down at my computer sometimes and I began typing out a play. I wrote I'm in the middle of writing a play, which I kind of stopped in the first scenes or first act of the play. I just got tired of doing it, but I was writing a play about my life story because I have an amazing story and I do want to tell that story, but I would love to tell it in an artistic form. Yeah, I could write a book. Yeah, I could do these things, but I'm so entwined with so many different artistic things from singing. I want to get somebody to compose something for it. I just don't know the direction I want to go. So it's almost like you have so much in store and you have so much instilled in you that you want to do, but you don't know how you're going to accomplish it. But I want to encourage everybody, along with myself, that whatever you want to do, you just have to put your mind into it. You have to actually put in the work. This is what I've been trying to do with my podcast, is because the more that I talk about it, the more that I instill in myself that I want to do this. And these are the things that I want to see myself go. These are the heights I want to see myself at. These are the things I want to do artistically. The more that I do that and the more that I give myself that encouragement and that energy, the more I'm going to pursue it. The more that light doesn't dim, that more that light doesn't burn out, that fire that's inside, it continues to just go and go and go. And that is the most important thing about anything that we do, any type of gift or purpose that we have in our lives. Is so very important that we don't let that fire ever burn out from anything that we want to do. And so even in the midst of me still wanting to write this play and wanting to have like this play in a musical form or do something with it that involves music along with acting and writing and dancing, I know that it's going to take other people that are encouraged by me. So that's why I say, if I go to an artistic place, I want God to surround me with people that have a heart for just giving something to somebody that they can take and it will last with them forever. Giving them that piece of art, giving them that piece of music or acting or dance or sing or whatever, giving them a piece of something that they can keep and they can hold on to and that they will remember. When I was in third grade and I remember those moments of writing my first book, when I remember those moments of singing to Broadway stuff, those were the moments that I remember and I carried with me for life. So those little pieces of things that people plant in your life that you remember the most are so critical to forming our purpose and to forming what we become and forming what makes a difference to us or what means a lot to us. And so that's why I take everything that people say, everything that people put out into the earth so seriously. It's so important that what we put out, whether it be something positive, whether it be something negative, that we are doing something that either is for a cause or is to wake people up to something that is more than what they see around them. And I think that is the most important thing. And that's what I'm trying to find a balance with, finding a balance with my creative outlet, finding a balance with writing. Sometimes I don't feel like writing, but sometimes I have to force myself to do it. Get down there, journal something, write something down, write a poem. I have so much stuff stored in my phone now. That's what kind of happened. I got kind of lazy because we're so used to typing sometimes. Even here, when I wrote my plays back in the day, it was handwritten. I wrote the plays got to a copy machine and I copied off all of that paperwork. I talked to all the parents about bringing their kids to rehearsal. All of those things I was doing at that time. I was like, we have to be able, I was so driven. And that's the thing that keeps you going, is that drive. And that's what I've asked for back. And I've said, even through everything that I've been through, that drive is what I want back with me. And that's why I do this podcast. That's why I continually get on here and want to encourage others to keep that drive, keep going for what you want, keep trying to excel and do whatever you have to do to get where you need to be. Try to do it the right way. Try to do it the right way. Try to do it the honest way. Try to do it the best way that you can, so that in the end, you'll be proud of what you present to people and proud of what your legacy holds after that. And that's really all I wanted to say on this chapter of The Other Sides, or this part of The Other Sides. I want to thank you so much for listening again to this podcast, this part 2. I want to encourage you to please continue listening to the summer series. Even if you don't want to listen to some of the summer series, I have so many other episodes before here that you can listen to and kind of chime in and let me know what you think about them. If you see it something on YouTube, it's at Deluxe Dave, and you can type under the comments to let me know what you think about each one of the chapters that I have that come out. Also, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm always interested to hear your input on clips that I put up, or just what the chapters mean to you. I would be grateful to hear some of your input. I am at DeluxeDave, DeluxeDave on Instagram. You can also follow me on TikTok. I'm at davidj.coleman, and that is also, you can put it on TikTok, Deluxe Dave, and you can find me there also. You'll see plenty of cool stuff on there. And you can also follow Coleman on Purpose. Coleman on Purpose is just COLEMANONPURPOSE. Follow Coleman on Purpose. I put many of the clips up there on TikTok, so you can definitely follow me there as well. Well, I want to thank you so much again for joining me for this chapter. Make sure you come back for part 3 of my summer series, The Other Sides. Once again, you are unique, you are loved, and you are created for greatness. I'll see you on the next chapter. Holla.